to dig for those giants, how much are you happy with Twilight Drakes? Your first tour stop win may depend on this choice.
You're tapping so much, but a giant in this matchup is so much better than a Twilight Drake.
Yeah.
It's not like against the aggressive matchups or the mid-rangey matchups where they're very often essentially the same, or comparable at least.
I'm glad he's finding it tough, because it's definitely a tough call. He does keep one, so he's got some guaranteed action, but a better chance of drawing into those giants. And I feel that's how I would have gone for this.
Yeah, good middle of the road play. As here for Lee, he's got a hand which, at least in the immediate, is no slouch. I'd say it's probably more of an anti-aggro hand than an anti-control-ish mid-rangey hand. It's kind of hard to define the even Warlock, because this is a nice curve hand where you could fight back against early boards. But just the draw from Kobold Librarian maybe gets him closer to those answers, which he's absolutely going to need.
And the immediate buff on the Spellstone
throws down. Yes.
Immediate buff on the Spellstone, combined with the mini board he's going to have, will be enough to take care of one giant. No giants from Monsanto.
Yeah, sorry. Lee immediately here showing his plan of not attacking. He does not want to activate those hooked Reavers. He wants to take this nice and slow, easy breezy, curve into a Gul'dan, a couple of Void Lords, which your opponent could struggle to deal with.
Rin, I think, is a bigger deal than maybe it first looks here.
Yes. Yeah.
Just cleaning up the garbage that the Warlock throws at you as its final throws.
Destroy.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I think in the immediate, I definitely agree with you. You're not going to have time to play the Rin Seals, and you're unlikely to destroy much of your opponent's deck, because they're going to be tapping so aggressively in this matchup. However, in the later stages of the game, if you've dealt with most of their threats and even Warlock starts to peter out, as it often does, then Rin could give you the extra value you need, something to just sink your mana into to present some kind of a threat, and maybe give you the extra board presence you need to close out the game.
Siphon is a lovely pickup here.
Yeah.
Not because you need it right away, but just that peace of mind for the giants.
Or anything later on. Hooked Reavers, Lich King as well. Whole bunch of big minions you want to siphon.
Must destroy.
Interesting hand. Looks like a Stonehill to me. He's still got space in his hand to fit it in there.
He's at, what, 9 cards? Yeah, he could have gone for it, I suppose, but this just presents a bigger minion on board, right?
Yeah. Still not worried. Well, worrying about Defile, still making sure it doesn't happen to him. Have to be so careful not to do that.
Yes.
And Monsanto, not tempted by the Spirit Bomb, just developing his own board and saying, come on, Lee, stop messing around with this plan you're going with.
Yeah, I like this a lot from Monsanto, and this is really the big difference I find between Twilight Drake and Giant. Because if he'd had the Giant, he'd have a lot more liberty to go face there. Maybe go with the Spirit Bomb to clear off the 4/4 so his Giant can't be killed off. Whereas with Twilight Drake, your aggressive potential is basically halved because you have half the attack. So you want to consolidate board first, make sure you're taking value trades, build up a big board, then push for the aggressive damage. Because otherwise, your opponent will be taking the value trades and gaining too much value by trading into all your minions in the way they dictate. And you won't actually have killed them quickly enough because it's a Drake and not a Giant.
And Lee is not messing about. Rin is a really good taunt minion anyway in this situation.
Well, it's a 6-mana 3/6. It's all right.
Oh yeah, in this situation where your deck contains a bunch of nothing in the first 6 turns.
Yeah.
It's certainly not a minion I'll put in my aggro pally deck. For a start, you're not allowed to. Yeah, Monsanto judging whether it's even worthy of a Spellbreaker.
What else are you going to be Spellbreakering? Yeah, actually, I guess a Void Lord is a pretty respectable answer to what are you going to be Spellbreakering.
So, he's reached the same conclusion we have, which is sure, don't think your Rin gets there.
Yeah, if you want to play a 5-mana 2/2, be my guest.
Well, I don't think Geist will hit any cards in this deck somehow.
What on earth could have led you to that conclusion, Neil?
It's just not how even and odd numbers work.
Yeah.
It's not like there's any 0 cost cards in there that you could hit. Have fun, chap.
Yep, carrying on with the Taparoonies here for Monsanto, getting himself closer to, both effects of the hero power. The draw is getting him closer to his good cards, and the damage from life tap gets him closer to playing activated Hooked Reavers, which is very important. You just want to be making sure you have a strong density of threats so that your opponent can't get too much value in the later stages of the game with Void Lords, resurrecting the Void Lords with Gul'dan, too many hero powers from Gul'dan. It can get a little bit messy if you take this too slow for Monsanto.
Yeah, so Greymane looks decent, which is a phrase I've said way too often this week. Skulking Geist, sure. Got better ways of surviving because this allows him now. So again, he probably has to mess around, but doing this way, he can get the face damage in there. And again, it's that turn 7. He's not scared of the Twisting Nether on turn 7.
Might need to be afraid of Lord Godfrey here, as I believe with an attack in to the Twilight Drake brings his Geist down to 2. So Godfrey is a board clear here if Lee wants to go for it. And I think, to be honest, you're probably not going to get all too many better situations for it than this one, are you?
I agree entirely. If you can Godfrey in this matchup, I don't think you ever clear much more, especially with the Cyphers back up to the 8/8s. I think you're in a good spot. And Monsanto just hasn't drawn the damage. He just hasn't got a way to get that through. Now, there's a long way to go, but he needed to get that damage in early on. And now it's a race for Gul'dan. Otherwise, he may well end up not winning this tour stop.
Oh, so close. I mean, it's still absolutely anybody's game on both sides. Monsanto has been drawing a whole lot, so he will be starting to get through to those power cards like the Mountain Giant that he just picks up. Or even without that, he's still got Vulgar Homunculus into Dread Infernal this turn. But with the Giant picked up, I have to imagine that looks like a pretty juicy play.
One of the
then
keys
on the other
this
side,
game...
on the other side for Lee, he's got a load of answers. He's got a Spellstone, a Siphon Soul, Hellfire. So many answers to fight back against what Monsanto's doing.
One of the things I think I'm interested to see how Monsanto uses in this game is that Sun Fury Protector. At some point, he can use that to cheekily get something small in the way of something big. No time soon at all. But I'd love to see, or we're going to see, how he finally ends up using it.
And that is the nuance of Sun Fury Protector, isn't it? It's how you position your minions so that you don't protect your health total, your own face necessarily. But like you said, the Mountain Giants in particular, and as well as something like Hooked Reaver or again Greymane, can be really powerful to protect them and just use them as battering rams on your opponent's health total.
And this is cheeky from Monsanto. He's put himself below 15. And that will alert Lee, even though there isn't a Reaver there.
Lee does look... He looks thoroughly alerted to the situation.
He certainly is. And now Monsanto has won back the board for the time being. As this mana ticks up, though, those seals are going to start to become relevant sometime soon.
Yeah.
In terms of board control, not in terms of damage.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, Lee does still have a decent amount of removal. He's got Sacrificial Pact for a Hooked Reaver or a Dread Infernal. He's got Spellstone, he's got Hellfire, like I said, a bunch of good tools. But eventually, he's going to run out. And at that point, you need to start using your minions to trade on the board, start fighting for board control, which, like you said, if you can get up to the 5/5, 6/6 level on the Rin Seals, actually becomes pretty significant threats in their own right.
Wow. How close for a final game of a tour stop would you want? I would want this.
Oh, yes.
Neither player having the Gul'dan, but Lee having the tap advantage really now. And Monsanto managing to protect the board this way rather than making the more obvious looking trade, just finding a way to keep a sneaky 2-2 on the board.
Here for Lee, actually, while Monsanto has obviously been playing the more aggressive side in this matchup, Lee, with a powerful tempo swing available through the use of maybe Sacrificial Pact on this turn to deal with the Dread Infernal, is actually starting to represent a good amount of damage himself.
The end is coming!
Yeah, and throwing out the first part of the seal, why not? You don't want a 5-mana 2-2, you want 5-mana 6/6s. No time soon, but at some point.
Still here for Monsanto. Not a whole lot to actually be doing right now. You could obviously go Mossy Horror here to destroy the entire board. And then, I don't know, follow up with a couple of 2-drops. I guess that's better than just passing, right?
I guess. Yeah, I think it is.
Like, what happens otherwise? You pass over initiative and your opponent plays a Void Lord onto an empty board. Or Gul'dan or something like that. Or just 2 Rin Seals.
So the other side of that is, do you need to keep these things so you can win the game? I think you're right. I think you can afford to dump some stuff here.
Yeah.
But it's a fairly sad fight. It's great play from Lee. And having that health advantage has allowed him to make this play.
Monsanto giving me a small heart attack there as he almost misses the 2 damage with the Vulgar Homunculus, as he is, in the end, going to be leading up with the Mossy Horror. A slight variant on the play, I said. You know, getting the tap in, I think, does make sense as well, because the difference of getting a 2-2 on board versus, a 2-3 on board versus potentially drawing the Lich King or drawing Blood Reaver Gul'dan is a lot more impactful to get those power cards.
Yeah, from where he's sat, he does not win this game if he doesn't draw Gul'dan. We can see it's maybe a little bit closer than that because Lee has nothing of purpose in his hand. And this is the value from those seals we talked about earlier. If he can survive the early game, which he has, they are becoming a little bit irritating now. And remember, Monsanto probably correctly chose not to silence Rin earlier on.
Yes, because this game could have gone very differently. A Void Lord could have just been thrown down on turn 9. A Skull could have been seen early on, which I suppose Monsanto has the answer to in the Ooze. But like we said, getting rid of the Void Lord has to be more impactful.
Well, it's such a low health total. Even if he finds Gul'dan, Rin could just seal this because Lee is sitting pretty on 29.
And like I said, the minions on their own, Lee has got himself into a position where, due to his high life total, he doesn't have to kill things off every turn, and he can just play the seals, and his opponent has to deal with them.
Yeah. So, no easy way to deal with things right now, but still, again, that high health total, and there's an easy way to deal with things and do 6 damage in the process. Might not want to do that, but it's a great option. Yeah, he's just saying, you know what? I don't care. Kill me from 27, I dare you.
Wow. Completing the Azari on this turn. He's actually thinking, in a situation I never thought would occur, he could just blow up Gul'dan from his opponent's deck, and maybe a whole bunch of other good cards, a Hooked Reaver, a Lich King. If he just plays Azari next turn and doesn't die, he just wins, right?
Yeah, if he has Azari next turn.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oof. Ooh. I didn't even think of that.
1 in 5 chance that's not a card he has. Obviously, Monsanto knows it's there, so he has to go for it because he knows what you know. What I know is that if he gets played, he loses the game. So he has to go for the project. That's not Gul'dan, so he has no option, I don't think. It's just a case of how he sets it up with his own hand in case he gets lucky on the opposing one.
He needs to think here, can you like clear with Hellfire and Defile as well? But I think you're right. He's going to realize that's really his only shot here, a 1 in 5. He's going to need your energy, chat, if he goes for it.
And that's only a 1 in 5 to not die immediately. There's still plenty more to do after that. So he's clearly going to go for it. He's not baiting us here. I think he is just working out how much stuff he wants to get rid of his own in case he high rolls himself. He can also get Jiraxis for himself, I guess. Your opponent is playing sack pack, so that's probably not the best plan.
Oh, you've already seen the sack pack.
Okay, so you might be okay. Here it goes. Good luck, everybody.
Oh, here we go.
He hits it.
No way! No
And
way!
he's
It's a blood him.
And Lee looks
Oh my god!
devastated, but has he still got it anyway?
So what situation is he in now? There's a bunch of taunts on the board, but he can go.
Hellfire.
Hellfire clears off his own 3/3, which you don't want at all. But if you go double Hellfire or Hellfire Spellstone, oh, you're getting close, but it's not quite there. Hellfire Spellstone. Hellfire brings him down to 8. You're 3 off lethal, I think, this turn. Oh no, wait. You can't double Hellfire because then your 5/5 dies.
If only he had 16 mana. So that's his chat's got lethal, but we haven't.
Must destroy.
So he goes back to normal looking plays, and Hearthstone has returned to the board.
Oh, my heart there. That was unbelievable.
That was absolutely nutty.
Well, let's go again. Let's get another Azari. Why not?
I defy you to kill off this one.
As still, you know, we've been hyping it up that Monsanto's got his way back into this game. It's still a somewhat scary situation for him where, he has to go... Well, if he goes like Hellfire Defile this turn to clear his opponent's board, his own board gets blown up, so that's not really something you want to do at all.
Whew. Trying to get my composure back, so goodness knows how Lee feels. He thinks he's won the tournament twice now. And Monsanto still has to make the best of this. Where are the Guldans? What are they doing?
Yeah, they're just chilling for the moment.
Yeah, and you're saying he doesn't really want to have to do this blow your own board up thing, especially he's pretty low on minions now. But he may not have much option.
This is what Rin does as well. Even though the Azari was met with the demonic project, Monsanto has had to tap so aggressively throughout this game because he knows that Azari was a potential throughout the whole time. And so I think we saw that it's 6 cards versus 11. Monsanto is so far behind on fatigue. It's not even close.
Plus he's got fewer cards in hand because the 2/2 through to the 5/5 general 6/6 generated by Lee have also just taken their toll on what Monsanto has left.
Ooh, still getting very close to lethal here. It would be I'd already be a way off, I guess, at 10, even if the Beetle wasn't there. But double Hellfire still waiting in the wings, forcing Monsanto to stay above 6 health continuously for the rest of this game.
Computing.
What's the best thing that Lee can do here? He doesn't want a Twisting Nether if he can ever help it.
Yeah. Do you just double taunt Rin into Senjin? Yeah.
He thinks the Rin also will generate more minions. Forget the fact that Azari exists. He's not getting there. Heard that before, but he really isn't this time. But what it is doing is just generating him some attack value. And how does Monsanto ever generate an attack? Lich King seems like the only way somehow. If you Lich King, your opponent has to nether it because he only has one siphon. He's used it.
Yeah.
And then you get attacker's advantage with your Lich King card and your Twilight Drake and maybe a giant. You've still got one giant left, I believe.
Yeah, I think so, because he didn't play one at the start, did he? He only played one throughout.
So maybe you get into a situation where your opponent wastes their turn twisting nethering.
I mean, that's the plan, isn't it?
You get a Frostmourne and Twilight Drake going. Yeah, that's what he's going to go for.
As yet, just going a lot less conservative than some of the play we've seen today from players, especially like Muzzy with his big druid, where he was going for the fatigue plan a lot of the time. Monsanto just throwing his biggest boys down onto the board, praying that his opponent doesn't have the board clear to deal with it.
There's some health, death coil.
Yep, or potentially a little bit of damage.
And the weird thing you're talking about, he's miles ahead in fatigue, and of course that is correct. It does mean he's nearer his Gul'dan.
Fair. On average, yeah.
And so that means that Lee really can't Twisting Nether this very comfortably at all. So he may have to trade in and double Hellfire.
Well, I mean, even then, like, what happens if he does play Gul'dan? You can just go Hellfire Defile, right? And that should clear up most stuff.
Sure, because there's going to be a bunch of 4/4s and general gubbins. Yeah.
Like, it will just be 4/4s in this 6/6, I think.
Okay, sure.
And you're saying Monsanto is closer to his Blood Reaver Gul'dan. It has not worked out this way in this particular instance.
Yeah.
Lee ready to go with it on the next turn. Oh, you're right. He would get not even a measly Blood Imp because that hasn't been played yet. And again, no Void Lords have been played.
But he does get all the Rin minions back.
Oh, he does get the Rinions.
That's a lot of stuff.
That's like 20. That's 2020 worth of stats, I think, right there. Which, yeah, again, is insane.
And your opponent can't Hellfire them because they will die.
And with that in mind, what is there Monsanto can do?
Well, he's used the tap, which is what his one plan was, to try and get Twilight Drake into Giant. That was kind of the thing. Remember, he's got to expect there's no Gul'dan.
Yes.
Gul'dan's there, he's lost. So his idea here is to get the biggest board he can. The last play we talked about was around getting the Giant or getting the Gul'dan. He hasn't got that, so he's got to stick some stuff on the board now.
So
he's trying
then
to get Spellbreaker back in case there's a Void Lord.
The play for Lee then becomes double Hellfire, Death Coil myself after the Rin minions fill up the board, which would get you up to 7, at which point you are not dead to Hellfire Hero Power on the following turn.
Yeah.
Which is your one saving grace here.
Despite drawing the Void Lord, Lee insta goes for Gul'dan.
Well, you don't even have to. Back. You don't even have to go double Hellfire. You can go 1 Hellfire, or you can trade into the 5/5 with your Sun Fury. 1 Hellfire, Spellstone the 6/6, Death Coil yourself back up, and then trade in to clear the last one off.
And drop a Reaver. Does that work? Is there enough mana? Yeah.
If you don't play the Spellstone, then yeah.
They've made a tasty final for us here so far.
Still somehow not over for Monsanto, hanging on in there, even though he hasn't found Gul'dan yet. He must only have like 3 cards left in the deck, right?
Lee's got the smile back on his face. He's going to have one more turn where he has to sweat at least. Yeah, he's only got like, I think it's 3. It might be 4 cards left. I think it is 3.
Yeah.
And he must be wondering what he has to do to win this tour stop. Because once again, Monsanto isn't dead.
Whoa, still just about hanging on in there. Wondering if he can get away with an attack through to face. If he doesn't go for the Death Coil here, then that will just be game. But we can see now, because he killed off that minion, he lives to fight another turn, just about.
2 cards left for Monsanto. You were correct on 3 before that Reaver. 6 for Lee. And it's hard to see how Lee's going to take damage from anything other than Gul'dan if he just shores this up with a couple of Void Lords now.
Oh, could it be bottom card Gul'dan for Monsanto?
Lee's eager to get these 3 points to face in, though. Can't say I blame him.
And he's saying here, you've got to get Gul'dan.
Gives the Blood Imp, like, comes off the bench at the last minute. Go on, have a run around, son.
There it is, instantly slammed from Monsanto, just in the nick of time. But even then, he's at such a low health total. It's such an onslaught coming through here for Lee. And he can just completely clear up the whole board, right? Without even blinking, without even batting an eyelid, this board is cleared.
Yeah, he's going to nether some twists. And then pink face, and Monsanto's down to a hooked Reaver. going to run into double Void Lord.
Yeah, you've got Spellstone, you've got Void Lords. Even if that isn't enough, you've got the Rin Seals. I think Lee just has this on lock now.
Yeah, how does Monsanto get in a position where he can hellfire away the 1/3s? From where he's sat, maybe he's hoping the 2 Void Lords are the bottom 2 cards. He has no read at all there in hand because it came Gul'dan, Void Lord in that order, so Lee's never had the chance to play them. Or at least he's chosen not to play them on the 1 or 2 chances he may have had. If you don't play the Giant now, you never play it.
Well, you could play it next turn, I guess, after you've got the Hooked Reaver in play, but...
Yeah.
I mean, you need to get those hero powers in, right? Or you just start dying to fatigue.
Yep. So now you've got to decide, maybe I'm never playing my Giant. Little bit of flashback to how the game panned out as well, and this doesn't make it right or wrong, but the Spellbreaker that could have hit the Rin that did the damage is still in hand.
But in the vast majority of cases, I think the Void Lords would have come down first. I still think that was the right choice from Monsanto.
I do too. I just, going back to the highlight of how the game has worked out, I always find it fascinating how your choices define the results.
Very easy plays here for Lee. Clearing it up, setting up for a nice clear board on the following turn. And Monsanto's just going to be dying through to fatigue here.
Yeah, absolutely nothing to do here apart from ping face a couple of times. And he's trying to work out anyway how this can work. He can't even play his Mountain Giant if he silences this with Spellbreaker. He gives it up, and Lee is the champion of HCT Buenos Aires. He has previously been close to playoffs and stuff, but this is by far his biggest result. Improved throughout the tournament and has taken down HCT Buenos Aires with a great display in the last 2 or 3 rounds.
This really has been